Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask John Hood and Chris Fitzsimon, lost in the hurricanes and the elections was the news about the federal government issuing subpoenas to 44 counties in our state for voter information. The Department of Justice did agree to hold off until after the election, but what's the current status of this? Can we expect the scope to be narrowed? What are they trying to ascertain, and what do you expect to happen here, John?
Well, I think this is part of a national interest, but probably focused on several states like North Carolina, trying to figure out voting issues related to immigration. Are there ways that people who are resident in North Carolina but not properly voting, are they casting ballots? I think this is a fishing expedition, it is fair to describe, though I think that the intent, some argue the intent was like to just cause trouble. No, I think that the people who are issuing these subpoenas or want this information truly believe they're going to run down not thousands of illegally cast votes, but a large number of illegally cast votes in some counties.
I mean, it all gets down to voter fraud when it gets right down to it.
The perception of voter fraud, right?
Yes.
Right, versus actual voter fraud. And in-person voter fraud is very rare, and Republican administrations have found this, and Democratic administrations have found this. I do think this is a fishing expedition, and the initial way this was public or put out or devised
was ICE.
Right. Well, it also may have revealed who people voted for. That was one of the worries that some people had. If we're going to talk about voting fraud, there's a lot of other ways to do this. I always mention on the show absentee ballots are where some fraud have. That's not covered by a lot of these things. I also think this is part of an overall trend, unfortunately, by the folks in charge of our federal government who are complaining, for example, about the way the election was counted in Arizona, that there was all this fraud, that ballots were being counted late. Arizona has hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots who are always counted late, and it's only an issue when it's a close election and we're waiting for the results. And I think the president especially has contributed to this perception that somehow our elections are rampant with voter fraud and it affects everything, maybe because he's worried about 2020 or maybe just because he's trying to sow division. But I think that does nobody any good
But some of this underlying issue is we've lost faith. We've lost trust in election boards and in the electoral process, along with government in general.
Yes.
And that's going to be something else that's got to be addressed. And I don't know how you do that through elections particularly.
Well, if we're talking about losing faith on both sides, and the way I think you handle it is you respond to heartfelt grievances in ways that make the folks who have those grievances feel like they're being listened to.
Yes.
Without For example, Chris brought up Arizona, which is, there were all these bizarre allegations of legal tampering and legal votes in Arizona, which were preposterous. But there was some legitimate debate about what was happening in Florida, in particular counties, particular standards, and where they changed after the election. A more effective leader would make distinctions and say, I'm concerned about this, I'm not concerned about mail-in ballots coming in Arizona. That would be more effective.
And we haven't even mentioned Georgia.
No, but I mean, part of what the point, though, is, as you're right, that we're losing faith in those institutions, and some politicians are that's their goal.
They're trying to
make it. That's the problem.
Right, exactly. Well, another issue to address at another time, but we thank you for watching the Afterspin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.